Welcome to the MMA Freakcast episode number
22.
22. Double digits for a while now. 22. Divide that by 2, you got 11. I don't know what I'm doing here today. We haven't been, last time was about a month ago now?
Yeah, it was about a month ago.
Sorry about the break, but we're back.
Yeah, we don't do this full time and we have busy schedules, so.
That's exactly right. We have lives to lead, everybody.
Yes.
A few things have happened. Fortunately, I think to serve a positive function, the UFC has sort of slowed down a little bit.
Yeah, it slowed down during that interim period. UFC 190. After UFC 198, there wasn't a whole lot going on. So last weekend it picked back up again with the UFC Fight Night 88.
And this was headlined by a bantamweight main event.
Yes, Almeida versus Garbrandt.
I mean, what did you know of these two fighters before?
Let's see. I knew Almeida was undefeated. He was definitely getting up there. He was working his way up the rankings. Cody Garbrandt was. I heard the name before, but it wasn't really on my radar. Whereas Almeida was. So yeah, this was basically two guys going in. It was two undefeateds going at each other, and obviously the winner was gonna definitely be up there. Which it did happen that way. So
it was a quick 1-round match. Is that right?
Yes. Cody Garbrandt knocked out Almeida.
Do you know if this one was set for 5 rounds?
I think all main event fight cards, unless an injury or something like that happens, are set for 5 rounds.
And were there? I mean, we'll touch on the details of that fight and the implications of it. Were there any other? But very quickly, let me ask you if there were any other sort of matchups that were of note, or any other athletes on the card that might have had a win or a loss that came with some implications.
Well, let's see. Jeremy Stephens took on a moving up in weight, Henan Barao.
Okay.
And beat him in decision.
Henan Barao, huh?
Yeah. Well, and people have been talking about, he kind of been big for bantamweight anyways because he's had problems making weight in the past, so this was probably a little
a natural move.
Yeah, a little overdue, but at the same time, him losing to Stephens, who's like a top 10, maybe a top 15 featherweight, doesn't really have good implications to him, and he's kind of basically, I think he's a little stuck in a rut right now, and
and this is somebody who used to be a UFC title holder.
Yeah, he was the UFC champion for a while,
and to see him losing against Jeremy Stephens, who's a veteran. He's been around for a while.
Yeah,
right?
He's been around for a while. He's been in a bit of wars. So
and he eked that out in a decision victory. We'll see. We'll see if Barao could get sort of back on track as far as being sort of one of the once upon a time one of the elite in the sport, but definitely since losing his title, losing the rematch against Dillashaw,
and Dillashaw losing the Cruz.
Dillashaw losing to Cruz in a sort of surprise loss. A lot of time has passed, and a lot of things have changed, and him trying to look for some success in the featherweight division seems natural enough, but. Maybe it's just a little bit of rust. Maybe it's just a little bit of that sort of the adjustment period, right? And like if what you say is true, which is that he was a bulky bantamweight, then featherweight might be a better fit for him, but it might take him a while for him to get his footing up from underneath him.
Right. So yeah, that's just understandable. Regardless of where you go in a weight class move, you're always going to need to. There's always going to be an adjustment period. So this could definitely be considered that adjustment period for Barao. Hopefully he can find success. Well, I guess we'll see. So
I'm seeing here
Rick Story versus Tarek Safadine. Safadine was the last Strikeforce welterweight champion, but due to injuries, he's kind of been a little under the radar as of late. Rick Story's kind of also danced around just outside of the title contention picture. So
this might be able to help that bring into focus, but it was a unanimous decision that gave Story the victory on this one, and I don't know if this was a spectacular bout or not. Did you watch it?
I did not. I had other stuff going on. It was Sunday night. I got stuff going on.
Yeah, it's a UFC fight night too. Or was this one anyhow? Vegas?
Yeah,
Thomas
Vegas.
and Mack Center.
No, Mandalay Bay Event Center.
Oh, my also had Chris Camozzi versus Victor Miranda, or rather in a middleweight fight, another decision victory. Yep. A lot of decisions except for the main event.
Yeah, Lawrence Larkin, Jorge Masvidal, Paul Felder, Josh Bergman. Then also Sarah McMahon, Jessica I, which
in a preliminary card bout between two women.
Yeah, and these are two women that have been in the title picture. I fought Tate for a title shot, and then also McMahon fought Ronda Rousey for the title. So, but after that, these two women kind of hit on hard times. So they both dearly needed a win, and Sarah McMahon, with the steadily shifting tide, though she did lose to the current champion Misha Tate. So, but with the current constantly shifting tide, these two women both desperately needed a win. So a win definitely keeps them in title.
McMahon was able to pull it off with a unanimous decision.
Yes,
yeah, another decision. Mm-hmm. And that's in 3 rounds. And where does that leave Jessica?
Jessica. Well, she's definitely still there. A win or two might be able to put her. Actually, 3 losses in a row does not really give her a good. That does not give her.
Their decision losses, to be fair. One of them against the current UFC champion, the other one against the
Ultimate Fighter winner.
That Juliana Pena.
Yeah, that might put her back in. That honestly may send her back to Invicta.
Or at the very least further down the ladder, and she still has a respectable record at 11-5, at least a respectable MMA record. Her losses have come by way of decision, barring an early spot on her record.
But if you look at her, her UFC record just does not look good. It's not looking good.
Yeah, you're right. Just a 1 win, a no contest, and the rest are losses. So
she could very well be heading Invicta.
A demotion of sorts might be in line for whereas McMahon further solidifies or at least salvages a spot.
Well, actually, there is going to be we'll call it a trial run coming up. The UFC is actually going to put on a flyweight bout. I forget which fight card it is, but they're going to be putting on a flyweight bout, and I's more of a natural flyweight. So, if depending on the success of that, maybe they might start a flyweight division. At which point we might. In which case, she might get a new breath of fresh air.
The expansion of the women's division is something that's totally necessary and welcome. As far as.
But it's also very possible we might see her in Invicta within the next few months.
Should be interesting to see how.
If you look at it doesn't going to Invicta isn't necessarily a bad thing. I mean,
they still have a working relationship with the UFC.
We saw Cyborg rule over that division for the longest time before she finally made her UFC debut last month, and we also saw. Also, last month, Angela Hill, went in and then was released because she didn't do well in the UFC, and now she's the Invicta strawweight champion. Tanya Evinger now, failed on the Ultimate Fighter. Now the failed again to the house. Now the Invicta Bantamweight champion. So going there isn't necessarily a bad thing. It might just be one of those things where you have to go back down and work on your skills, and then you go back up. I mean, it happens in the UFC all the time. So,
and I want to do something here, and very quickly let me rattle off the remaining cards, the remaining preliminary card matches. Abel Trujillo. My goodness, Abel Trujillo defeated Jordan Rinaldi by decision, unanimous. Middleweight Jake Collier defeated Alberto Yuta. This was a TKO, a knee and body kick in the second round, early in the second round. Eric Koch defeated Shane Campbell in a lightweight match.
Only submission of the card.
The only submission of the card, a rear naked choke in the second round. And in the UFC Fight Pass matches, a bantamweight match between Brian Caraway and Aljamain Sterling ended in a split decision that went Brian Caraway's way. And it also included a heavyweight match between Adam Milstead, and these are two relatively unknown heavyweights, Adam Milstead and Chris De La Rocha. Then this ended via TKO in the second round.
Well, the Brian Caraway fight, though, that's a significant win for him, considering he gave Sterling his first loss. Sterling was working his way up the ranks as well, so that kind of gives Caraway a feather in his cap, whereas he's kind of been dancing. He's kind of been dancing around that area of success in the UFC for a while. Where even though he has wins, he's he lost to Takeya Mizugaki and Rafael Assunção, both at least top 15, some maybe even top 10 fighters. But so we'll see. We'll see if he can continue to maybe try to build himself up to contention like his girlfriend. But and I've noticed that it's no secret that his girlfriend is women's champion Miesha Tate. So
yeah, and definitely she's been seeing better days recently. So hopefully some of that good juju rubs off onto him. I wanted to touch on the reported payouts for this UFC fight night. Now, keep in mind that this is a UFC fight night, so it's not a pay-per-view card. But some of these, I mean, we're not talking McGregor money here, but Jeremy Stevens specifically nabbed himself a little fat cash that night, $100,000 for a night's work, which included a $50,000 bonus on top of his $50,000 salary for the night. Corey Garbrandt netted himself $48,000, doubling what his salary would have been for the night, with a win bonus of $24,000. Rick Story nabbed himself a nice $76,000, doubling what his salary would have been for the night. And Chris Camozzi, along with Lawrence Larkin, both nabbing $72,000 after their win bonus, which was half of their finishing or ending salary, really.
That's a pretty good cash right there.
And it makes you I feel like UFC or MMA fans, it should give them pause as to, hey, maybe these fighters are starting to make about as much as they're worth with a relative consistent basis, and the incentive system that they've set up is actually it's pretty self-correcting, as far as it helps correct their salary issues that are often brought up, especially due to the lack of sponsorships nowadays.
Yeah, and for someone like Jeremy Stephens, who's been in the UFC and just Zuffa, the UFC for quite a while. That's significant in terms of the Zuffa deal, because I think he's on the top tier. Because they've got there's two ways in which they pay you. Title fights, I think, make the most. And then it goes by how long your tenure has been in the UFC, or depending on the situation, maybe Zuffa-owned promotions. But looking back, he's been fighting in the UFC since 2007. I mean, you just look at that record. He's on in that scale. That's someone for whom the Reebok deal would be more beneficial towards, because he's a long-time established veteran, been in the UFC for a very long time, and so he's been in there.
He's sort of earned his salary.
Yeah, he's earned that. Yeah, he's earned that salary. So getting that the amount of money that he is from the Reebok deal, because of the fact that he's been in there for quite a while, that's like I said, that's something that deal would. That's someone that deal would.
And he's a real gritty dude. You know, in the total 37 matches he's had, he's only, I think, been stopped 3 times, which is very impressive.
Yeah.
Especially for somebody who has fought that many times and who has sort of floated around the mid card. Really, he's always sort of buoyed around the mid card. You know.
Yeah, for the most part, he's been that mid card type dude. So but. There's been the occasion where he's headlined the occasional fight night, but yeah, he's kind of danced around title contention forever. So, but
good to see him get a win. Good to see him make some cash.
Yes.
What else did you take away from that night? I mean, anything else? Did the UFC Fight Night 88 took place at Mandalay Bay Center? Did it bring anything else into focus for you, man?
Well,
it snuck up on me, really. When I heard that it was going down on Sunday, I was a little surprised.
Well,
they really hadn't, done full sort of advertisement.
Well, it's not surprising that they do these, the occasional fight night on Sundays, especially with no football going around, and then also it was Memorial Day weekend, so I think that was probably also why they put it on a Sunday. And then of course they may also schedule them, on Sundays based on what's going on with Fox Sports 1 on a Saturday night. So it's just a matter of scheduling and ability and stuff like that. And of course the UFC is flexible. They're not very particular about holding it on one night or the other. So I think it went overall, I'd say it went pretty well.
Got to showcase a little bit of their bantamweight.
Yeah, it was just one of those. It was one of those things where it was definitely an up and comer, you could say, fight card. It was more to show. It was more of a talent showcase rather than a major event.
Perhaps maybe even whet the palate for a bantamweight championship match that's scheduled for this Saturday, Matt.
Yes, that might also be the possibility. So yeah, and maybe we should use that to segue into that, and then we'll talk about the other all the other topics that we're going to talk about. So,
okay, Matt, lead us.
Previewing UFC 199 at the Forum in Inglewood, California, which unfortunately I will not be attending
because we're underachievers, but we're getting better, man.
Yeah, but we're not good enough to get into a UFC.
Either way, Inglewood's always up to no good. So I don't know if I want to. That's a rap line.
Okay.
That's Dr. Dre. He says Inglewood always up to no good.
Well, shows how much Dr. Dre music I listen to. But anyways, so it's gonna be at the Forum.
Start at the top of the card.
Okay, so originally it was gonna be headlined by a middleweight title fight.
By a much better match.
Yes, by a middleweight title fight between Luke Rockhold and Chris Weidman. That was supposed to be the original headliner. However, Chris Weidman got injured and had to get neck surgery because of a herniation. So he'll be out, and while we're recovering, the
show must go on.
Yes,
the title bout must go on. Rockhold is ready to fight.
Yes, right? Now fighting Michael Bisping. In
their second match with one another, Rockhold, I believe, came away with the victory by decision on the first match. Is that right?
I think so.
Am I speaking out of my butt?
Well, let's see. I can't remember. I like to say it was. It might have been finished though. Let's see. Luke Rockhold. Why am I not finding him?
UFC 55. No, oh gosh, I'm way wrong. You're right. It was a submission.
Oh yeah, it was a submission. So yeah, it was.
It was of the night.
Yes, it was. It was a submission win, and so it's a rematch. Of course, Rockhold has kept up his winning momentum. Bisbeen's had a little bit of a up and down since then.
I think Bisping.
Oh no, that's been his. I know he's gone on 3 in a row, and then his last fight was that win over Anderson Silva.
A somewhat controversial yet hard fought one.
Yeah.
Win.
So that essentially earned him the alternate title shot. But so we'll see how that goes. Honestly, I think Rockhold's just on a bit of a tear as of late. I don't see Bisbee. I'm glad Bisbee finally got a title shot because he's a long time veteran. He's kind of been almost he was for the longest time a gatekeeper. Had a few number one contender fights, but lost them all.
The Ultimate Fighter winner.
Yes, the Ultimate Fighter season 3 winner for the light heavyweight. But yeah, he's kind of danced outside the title contention and never really been able to break through until now. But I just don't see him having the fortitude, the grit, the will, the ability, the skill set. I don't see him having the skill set. Like I said, Rockhold's just on a tear.
Aside from Rockhold being on a tear, it's also a matter of the fact that Rockhold has really just grown into his style.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, so that fight against that title fight against Weidman showed how sort of multi-layered his offense can be, and really I think what it showcased best as well was his incredibly physically imposing size at 185 pounds.
Yes. So
if you watch the matches between Chris Weidman and Anderson Silva, you see that Weidman actually kind of dwarves Anderson Silva. He looks substantially bigger than Anderson Silva in both of those fights. If you watch the Rockhold Weidman fights, you sort of see the same thing in terms of Rockhold really standing, kind of almost head and shoulders above Weidman and just really looking like having a lot more solid frame.
Yes. And then on top of that, he's Rockhold trains out of American Kickboxing Academy, and they're essentially a stable of champions, and they just go out there and just so he's training with a champion. He's training with Daniel Cormier. So I remember that in the I can't remember if it's the Unstoppable advertising campaign right now, but I remember that I remember they backed each other up because they were in that press conference together, and so they were backing each other up, Cormier and Rockhold. I think Weidman made a comment, and Cormier chimed in, and then maybe Jones made a comment, and then Rockhold chimed in. So yeah, they're teammates. They stick by each other.
They're a tight-knit crew.
Yeah, they're a tight-knit crew. That's actually why Cormier went down to light heavyweight, because he didn't want to fight. He didn't like the idea of having to fight Cain Velasquez. So he went down in weight in order to avoid fighting teammate Cain. So,
and this is the sort of thing that happens in tables and mixed martial arts. They become so friendly. They become like family with each other. And I'd imagine it'd be really hard to really get in there and be able to have the killer instinct against one of your best friends. Right? Yeah. So that's the main event. Sort of UFC salvaging a championship main event.
Speaking of which, just bringing up teammates. A situation like that happened in the Ultimate Fighter this season, which we'll talk about the Ultimate Fighter later. But so yeah, they were able to salvage that main event and keep the Luke Rockhold on as the main event with the middleweight bout against Bisping. And then in the co-main event, unchanged, Dominic Cruz versus Uriah Faber. The trilogy, the rubber match comes to a conclusion.
Finally, these two will face each other for a third time.
Yes.
A victory apiece, is that right?
Yeah. In their first outing back in WC, Faber was the champion.
Olden days.
Yes, Faber was the champion. Faber came out on top. Then I think that was at featherweight. That was back when they were at featherweight.
Okay.
And then they both went down in weight, fought at bantamweight in the UFC, and then the rubber match was supposed to take place after they concluded filming The Ultimate Fighter, that one live season, but Cruz got injured, and didn't fight again until a few years later. So
now finally we get to see each other. We get to see these two face each other in a rubber match that is also a title match that really comes hot off the heels of a surprise victory by Cruz against Dillashaw. Dillashaw was favored in that match.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was.
And and that was sort of that was a bit of a clinic.
Yeah,
by the way.
And that throws some complications in there because hypothetically speaking, Faber wins. Does he face his former pupil again? Or face his former pupil, because there's that whole complication there between Dillashaw and
maybe Dillashaw will move down.
I don't know. We'll see how that all goes. But yeah, there's that whole complication there. So, pretty
cool top of the main card, right? With a couple of championship matches.
Yep, and then we have and then at featherweight, Max Holloway, who's kind of been dancing. He actually lost to Conor McGregor when McGregor was still making his way up in the UFC.
But that was a while now.
Yeah, and he's I think he's gone undefeated since then. He's been kind of making the case that he should. Yeah, it was his last loss in 2013.
He took McGregor the distance, so it wasn't the shellacking that McGregor has occasionally given to contenders here and there. It was a decision kind of earlier in McGregor's run in the UFC.
Right, and he's gone on an 8-fight winning streak since then. And so there's some that would say that he should have, deserved a title shot.
And not just 8-fight winning streak, but all of them finishes with the exception of 2 of them. And 3 of them coming before the second, the finishes coming before the second round. So,
and these are not slouches either. Andre Fili, Akira Kurosani, Cole Miller, Cub Swanson, Charles Oliveira, Jeremy Stephens. These guys are not slouches.
Yeah, these are contenders. These are guys that are veterans, and Holloway's really been sort of imposing his will and really his size. He's a tall dude.
Yeah, he's definitely tall. Going up against former title challenger Ricardo Lamas. Lamas challenged Jose Aldo and had a kind of lackluster fight. But so he will be fighting for the title. Then at middleweight, we have Dan Henderson.
Dan Henderson
still
doing it.
Fighting a kind of bigger Hector Lombard.
Yeah. Henderson fighting in middleweight this time. He's a guy that tends to sort of go between light heavyweight and middleweight. And I think in recent years has sort of stuck to middleweight.
It's been kind of been going as of late because there was a point where he actually didn't want to cut weight because he just, it felt draining at his age, so he didn't want to cut weight, so he was fighting up at light heavyweight. But then in his last fight at light heavyweight, he came in weighing 199 or something like that. It's just like, okay, that's ridiculous. Drop. Drop 15 pounds and fight at middleweight and he got shellacked. I think it was Cormier. He got shellacked by Cormier, and it's like at that point it's just like, okay, that's it.
Thrown around.
Lombard. I guess he's trying to reestablish himself at middleweight because he came off of his drug suspension, fought Neil Magny, and then lost. So he's trying to fight up at middleweight. So we'll see how this goes because this isn't the first fight that Dan Henderson has had fight with. Basically, had trouble with basically a welterweight going up because his first fight in Strikeforce was against Jake Shields, and Jake Shields actually won that fight. And then we had the infamous Nashville Brawl afterwards.
Yeah, those Diaz boys.
Speaking of which, ironically enough, might as well just talk about this. Nick Diaz actually recently got a community award for
a local one.
Yeah, a local community award for his contributions to the community in Stockton, which I was kind of surprised because
he gets a bad rap. He's sort of pigeonholed.
He gets a bad rap, but at the same time, this obviously shows to prove. And there were interviews from his kids, or interviews from the people that he taught, which includes a I don't know if it's the assembly or if it's I think it's an assemblyman, but a California assemblyman.
Oh wow!
Who he teaches
Jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, jiu-jitsu too. And then all these kids that are interviewing. So he's apparently a very active member of the community up in Stockton.
You know, the guy's always been, I think, above everything. You know, when you sort of strip away all the controversy. He's
got a little bit of a temper, yeah, but I think the thing is deep down he has a good heart. Is what it comes down to.
Anybody who's a committed athlete, this you know, Diaz, more than a lot of other mixed martial arts fighters and stars, is an athlete. He's a true athlete. He's competed in triathlons. He's competed in Golden Glove boxing competitions. He's been an MMA star now for a decade or so.
Yeah.
He's been around for a while, and so he's not just sort of this guy that came up through the grappling circuit or the jiu-jitsu circuit and sort of latched himself onto mixed martial arts. Like I said, he's done a variety of he's had a variety of athletic endeavors over the years.
Yeah, so it's good to see that war, and then of course, like I said, it also just goes to show another side to Nate Diaz that we would not otherwise see, because when we see him in the octagon, we see him, we see him smack talking, we see him, doing his game and all that, but clearly and obviously, and as an example, with the Nashville brawl, we saw probably one of the worst sides of him. But obviously, there's a good side that we don't see on a regular basis, and that's the side who's helping to train these kids and stuff like that. And also, that also goes back to his upbringing, because he didn't have the best of upbringings, which is probably why he kind of has the attitude that he does. But at the same time, he's going out there to say, I'm going to teach these kids to not have as bad of a upbringing. He's trying to make this a little bit better for these kids,
of course.
And also, apparently, he teaches anti-bullying campaigns as well. So, even it's and like I said, just goes to show that he's got a good heart.
Yeah, there's more to the man, right? There's more to the man.
There's more to the man. Obviously, the fighter is a certain way, but there's more to the man. But anyway, so
So getting back on track with the fight card that night.
Yes, Dan Henderson, Hector Lombard. We were talking, and Shield and stuff like that. So, both these guys have punching power. This is one of those fights where both these guys have punching power. So
you can't help but wonder, though, Henderson's getting up there in age. How much longer can he do?
Honestly, if he loses this one, I think he should have hung it up last time, because he lost to Vitor Belfort, if I recall correctly. He lost to Vitor Belfort. I really think he needs to hang it up if he loses after this. He really needs to hang it up for his safety. We don't want to see him turn out like Gary Goodrich. We do not want to see that.
Sakuraba.
Yeah. These guys are suffering Goodrich has dementia. Because he's got those things. He's got stuff similar to what Muhammad Ali had. We don't want to see him suffer Parkinson's or suffer that same with dementia. We want to see him have a good post-fight life, and it's this isn't like Dan Severn, where he was winning fights and he wasn't taking a whole load of amount of punishment, even though he was fighting into his 50s.
Yeah,
he's taken some punishment,
and it's because that's his style. He to be able to land that H-bomb, so to speak, he needs to sometimes get in there. Really get in.
Yeah,
and sometimes he suffers for it.
Yeah, so I think he really needs to consider calling it. If he loses this one, I really think he needs to consider calling it, because he's taken too much, and I think it's just one of those things where you need to know when to call it a career. That's just one of those things when you're in MMA, you just need to know when to call it, and I think this is one of those times where if he loses, he needs to really consider calling it. So. But we have Dustin Poirier going up against Bobby Green in that's the first. That's the kickoff for the pay-per-view. Poirier, he's kind of done this before. He floated around between lightweight and featherweight. He was doing good at featherweight till he lost to a certain guy named Conor McGregor. At which point he went up to lightweight, and he's kind of been doing good ever since.
What do we know about Bobby Green?
Well, let's see. He's on a three. Poirier's on a 3-fight winning streak since his loss to McGregor. Bobby Green's also been one of those guys who's kind of floated around. He's established.
Not a bad UFC.
He's established lightweight, and he's kind of floated around. He's a Strikeforce import. So he's kind of floated around, gotten some wins against guys like Pat Healy and Josh Thompson, and he's been out for last year. I think he got injured, if I recall correctly. Yeah, he got injured, so he's been out for a while.
So he's trying to get back on board after a loss to Edson Barboza,
which was, as I said, it was like 18 months ago.
Yes.
November 14. Yeah, it was probably like 18 months ago. So
he's definitely got some rust to. He's definitely going to have some rust to sort of shake off, and we'll see if he could do that against Poirier, who I think has definitely been more active in the last 2 years.
Yeah. So he's got some rust that he's gonna need to work out. So, Then let's see, Brian Ortega versus Clay Guida. Clay Guida's still in there.
Clay Guida still making the rounds, still sort of hanging around the UFC. Definitely a veteran gatekeeper at this point. Can always,
who's got ridiculous cardio.
I was going to say, can always put up a very competitive match. Sort of always keeps coming forward. Is never really afraid, and you're hard pressed to see a boring match starting.
Yeah. Then we got Beneil Dariush versus James Vick at lightweight. Dariush. He's out of Yorba Linda. He's Iranian. Huh. King's MMA in Yorba. I didn't realize that King's MMA was in Yorba Linda. Okay. He's Iranian of Assyrian.
Iranian descent.
Yes, Syrian Iranian descent. But anyways, so he's fun. He has wins over Michael Johnson, Jim Miller, Darren Cruikshank. So he's got some name people. He's coming off a loss though against Michael Chelsea. So we'll see how it goes.
He's fighting an undefeated James Vick. So I think this gives James Vick a chance to sort of test his mettle against someone who's got a little more experience. Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes. Jessica Penne versus Jessica Andrade. Penne was on the Ultimate Fighter 20. She fought. I think this might be her first fight since getting demolished by. Yep, first fight since she got demolished by Joanna Jędrzejczyk, and I think part of that's because Jędrzejczyk smashed her nose. Literally, her nose just did not look normal. So
that's a tough loss to take.
Yeah, speaking of which, I actually ran into her at Invicta 15 at the fairgrounds.
And how was she?
Well, she's actually my height. I was just like, oh my gosh, you're my height. I feel so much better now. Someone's finally my height in MMA. Everyone else is taller than me except for the men's flyweights and the women's strawweights.
It's all right, man. That sounds like fun then. At least you got to sort of measure up against one of the MMA stars of today. Jessica Andrade is coming off of a loss just late last year against Raquel Pennington, but has
which means she's dropping 2 weight classes
and has a spotted record in the UFC. I think an even one. 4 wins and 3 losses, so close to even. 4 wins, 3 losses in the UFC. So looking to improve on that this Saturday.
And the Pennington fight was a rematch, actually. Yeah, she got some good wins over Sarah Moros, Pennington, Rosie Sexton. Rosie Sexton's kind of a long time established, so if she got a fight over Rosie Sexton, who's retired now, but and then of course the people she lost to are not slouches either. So, then let's see, Cole Miller versus Alex Caceres. I think is the last most significant fight. Two featherweights, yeah, they're prospects dancing outside that realm, but so yeah, that's UFC 199 in a nutshell. So this weekend,
that'll be coming up this weekend.
Yes.
That was taking place in Los Angeles, and really a solid card. Couple championship bouts on there, and really kind of a fun time for MMA to come back to California.
Yep, and it's good, yeah, especially the Southland, our little turf.
Yes, indeed.
Yes,
Our
turf, our home. The best way to put it is our home. But anyways, so yeah, that's what it's looking like, and so I think I will go into some other topics. One of which is that a few weeks ago, there was a leak about the next generation, not necessarily the next generation, but they're calling it the Reebok 1.5 kits, because we know that the first generation came out a little stale. It's
wasn't really too much fanfare.
Yeah, not too much fanfare. It was very the designs were very generic, and then they had the red and black. No, white and black. And it was just like
a little plain.
Yeah, it was a little plain. But my understanding is that this next I gotta look, and this next round is supposed to include a little bit more variety. I saw some red, blue, green, maybe some orange. I can't remember exactly, but it looks like they're adding a little bit more color than just the the rather generic black and white. I think what happened was maybe Reebok didn't want to fully commit to it at first, so they were just they were maybe trying to do those as a trial run, and now since some time has gone by, they're a little bit more willing to maybe commit to maybe a little bit more diversity there.
This is something that you brought up. Sort of the week of its unveiling on our very own podcast. You were sort of underwhelmed.
Yeah, I was underwhelmed.
To say the least.
Yes, I was very underwhelmed. I just don't think, aside from the championship, the champions uniforms, and maybe some, just depending on how the colors were for the names, I've been a little underwhelmed by the design of the Reebok. The Reebok deal and the Reebok kits and the uniforms and stuff like that. I think that's a little restrictive to begin with, just making those the exclusive sponsors. But then on top of that, it's just kind of like, yeah. So I'm glad to see there's a little bit more in terms of diversity coming out. As long as these guys and gals should be given a little bit more freedom in terms of what they can or can't wear. But so that's what the Reebok kits. Then some interesting things. I don't know if you heard, but this last season of Dancing with the Stars, Paige Van Zandt was on.
Okay.
That's kind of why she's been a little bit out of touch recently, is because she's been on Dancing with the Stars.
Okay. And
she actually made it to the finals and was actually number 2.
Impressive.
Yeah, which to me actually did not surprise me, because she comes from a cheer background. So we already know that she kind of has that kind of athleticism
and
to
maybe
her.
some rhythm as well.
Yeah, so some rhythm and stuff like that. That's kind of involved with cheer, because the past 2 people that we've had, representing MMA and Dancing with the Stars, Chuck Liddell and Randy Couture, they were rather stale. They didn't last too long. Which to me, they come from the backgrounds they do. They don't have a lot of rhythm to them. I hate to say that they're kind of stale white men, but
you have to.
Yeah, but you have to. And then of course they don't. They're not. It seems like combat athletes, just in general, don't usually have the most. It doesn't seem like they have they don't have a lot of rhythm. Like Evander Holyfield didn't last very long. Layla Ali, on the other hand, she went, I think, to the semifinals, I think. But I don't know. Maybe it's something different between men and women.
Oh, well, absolutely. I think dancing is a distinction between men and women since the beginning of time.
Layla Ali did pretty well. And then, as I said, Paige Van Zandt just made it to the finals. And before she returns to the octagon, she's actually going to appear in the next kickboxing movie. Apparently her performance on Dancing with the Stars got her this.
So is that the Kickboxer, the GSP remake?
The sequel to that, I think.
Okay.
Because you remember when we were at World Series of Fighting, I think it was 28. They did film some scenes for that. So
yeah.
Then of note is that there's also been, mainly through TMZ, but there's been this story going around that as long as we're talking about Van Zandt, that there was a little bit of an altercation between Van Zandt and Ronda Rousey. So apparently what happened was they were at a Reebok photo shoot, and this was originally broken by Misha Tate, because apparently Paige, talked to Misha about it first. But they were at a photo shoot together. Paige is trying to find Ronda because she's apparently a Ronda fan. So she's going around trying to find Ronda. The Reebok people are trying to tell her, don't go to her, don't talk to her, and she's like, apparently she's like, why not? They run into each other, and
let's hear it.
Apparently Ronda cussed her out just over the fact that Paige congratulated Holly Holm on her victory.
Wow.
I was just like, gee whiz, what is wrong with you?
Ronda has some growing up to do, period.
Yeah, I was telling you about this before we actually started the podcast. Ronda, to me, has kind of, ever since her loss, has kind of started to lose it in a way.
I mean, in a lot of ways, she was already, sort of incredibly narcissistic when she was champion, but it lent itself because she was the champion, and now it's like, whoa, dude, you have a serious attitude about things you could control. You don't have any control over, and you shouldn't feel like you have any control over.
Yeah, so she's so she cussed her out, and so apparently Paige doesn't hold any ill will towards her. That's what I read in a recent update about the situation. She, like I said, Misha was the one who broke the story first, because Paige talked to Misha first about it, and then Paige acknowledged it, but hasn't been very verbal about it. She doesn't apparently hold very much ill will towards Ronda, and she still hopes that, maybe there could be a positive relationship in that. But I'm still kind of like, Ronda, you're losing it. You're kind of, because when you hear stuff, it's like when you hear about stories like that, you see her, doing the uncharacteristically chewing out Holly before their fight, not touching gloves, and then on top of all that, when you see her on Ellen DeGeneres saying she thought about killing herself after the fight, I'm just thinking,
maybe there's more going on here than just that's it's iffy territory, and she's very young, I think, is what this speaks to. She's only 29 years old, and that's relatively young in the world of especially championship mixed martial artists. And she's somebody who has actually seen success throughout most of her life and might not be well equipped to deal with some of the downfalls of success.
Well, she did. She did only get a bronze in the Olympic Games in judo, but yeah, maybe it's been the fact that maybe she's been riding this high as of late of success. So I don't know.
Being the face of MMA, you could imagine places a significant amount of pressure on you, and then especially after being embarrassed in her match against Holm, that might have sort of rattled her in a way that people might not have been, she might not have been really ready for it.
That's true. So, yeah, that's all going on with that issue. Then also, so I can't remember if it was in a podcast or whether it was in an interview, but there was Dana White went on record saying that the UFC as a whole is not for sale. Because I think I don't know if I remember if it was our last podcast or the one before that.
We did speak about it recently.
Yeah, we did speak about it recently, but apparently he said that they're not. It's as a whole, the UFC is not for sale. They from what I could gather from the hints of it, they hinted that maybe a minority of it, maybe they may be looking for like an investor, like maybe a minority shareholder, but as a whole, the UFC is not UFC is not for sale.
Not for sale, despite the rumors that were floating around that a Chinese corporation might have been interested in buying the company for a significant amount of money.
Yeah, I think it was in the billions or something like that. Yeah, for the time being, and they've done this before where they actually sold off, I think, like 10% to Flash Entertainment, was it? Yeah, so they sold off like a minority share to Flash Entertainment, which is a Dubai company. So
it's not the first time they've been faced with the prospect of having some shares or the majority of themselves sort of sold off.
Yeah. So we'll see how that goes on. I'm sure that if it actually does happen, then Dana White will probably announce announcements gonna come. I'd imagine maybe mid to late summer, maybe late fall or early fall or something like that. So we'll see how that goes. Then also in recent weeks, there was an announcement about the UFC weight management program. So some of the athletic commissions have started kind of on an individual basis, California being the leading one, of doing these weight management programs because of recent issues with weight cutting and stuff like that. The thing is, though, as I said, it's an athletic commission-based system. Also, ONE FC, which is the premier promotion in Asia, they're also doing a weight management program as well. But that doesn't speak as a whole to, like not all the commissions would maybe be able to commit that,
it's not a standardized process.
Yeah, it's not a standardized process, and they can't really, some of them work differently, and some of them may not have the budget for that. That's why the UFC is going to start their own management program, and it's going to partially kick off with their, opening of that large complex that they're building in Las Vegas, because they started the process of I think it was either earlier this year or late last year, they started building this giant like training and health complex or something like that, because the UFC, my understand, Dana White, according to, this was before that the complex started construction, he said that excuse me.
Sorry.
Excuse me.
We had some chicken and waffles before the podcast.
So maybe now it's kind of,
reminding you.
Yes, reminding me, gassing up or whatever. But, so before the construction of this facility began, he said that the UFC had been buying up various property in Las Vegas as needed. That's obviously where the current Ultimate Fighter training complex is. But he said that after this, all the subsequent seasons, all the training's going to take place at the giant training complex And that's where like all the executive offices are going to be. That's like where all that stuff is and whatnot.
Just sort of this giant headquarters.
Yeah, giant headquarters. I guess you could maybe compare it to like the WWE headquarters or something like that. But anyways, it's going to be this giant headquarters. There's going to be this giant training complex where they got trainers and just whatever other stuff in there and whatnot. So what's going to happen is they're going to do this weight. The weight program, my understanding is, it's going to be similar to how some of these proposals have been, which is where you have to be basically training, meaning your, like minimum weight, like minimum weight, or maximum weights, like these maximum weights over the course of what your training is. What
they sort of monitor the progress that you're making in terms of cutting, or
right, to make sure that you're not doing anything like drastic towards the end there, with
the emphasis being on fighter safety.
Right, because as we all know, there's been issues in the past where fighters have had to go to the hospital, or some even have died because of trying to do too dramatic of a weight cut or whatnot. So that's what that weight program is designed to do, and I think this will probably be better in the long run, because like I said, the athletic commissions are going to be doing this on an individual basis, as I say, California is more groundbreaking than anything else. But the thing with the UFC, they need some fluid consistency across all these commissions, and I think the UFC, by doing this, is setting the standard. Granted, they've done it a little bit later than some others, but I think this is probably the best solution, because they're this way
they're the premier fight organization.
Yes, this way they'll be able to keep them in check, and then they'll be able to make sure that all these guys make weight at the right time and whatnot.
And they usually set the tone. The UFC, right? Other organizations follow suit as to whatever the UFC sort of gets the ball rolling on.
Right, and hopefully maybe this will also create some fluidity across the commissions as well. But anyways, so that's a positive note right there. Then I'm going to talk about this season before I talk about the next season. So the Ultimate, we've talked about the Ultimate Fighter season 24, where it's going to be flyweights. So it turns out it is going to be it's going to be that same. They are going to indeed be doing a title shot, but it's going to be for people exclusively outside of the UFC. It's going to be for people exclusively outside the UFC.
Okay. So it's sort of all newcomers to the UFC, 100%. And really, the winner gets a title shot for the flyweight. It's sort of really trying to cultivate. I'm sorry.
The flyweight division.
Yeah, trying to cultivate a flyweight
division. And the coaches are going to be Joseph Benavidez and Henry Cejudo.
Okay.
Cejudo just coming off of a loss, and Benavidez having fought before, and I think the winner of that also gets a title shot. I think. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, they're the coaches, and they'll be fighting on the finale, which has kind of been something of a standard in the Ultimate Fighter. So there's that, and so now with the current season of the Ultimate Fighter,
what's been going on?
Okay, so our interviewed girl Ashley Yoder has not fought yet.
Not yet.
We will see. So we'll see how that goes in coming weeks. I'm sure she's got to fight with in the first round. So we'll see how that goes. But she's with Team Joanna, and on the other hand, my mutual acquaintance Tatiana Padilla did win her first fight.
Very nice.
Yeah. So, and I was glad to see that. She went in there, did exactly what I thought she'd do. She went in there and wrestled, ground and pound, and got out of this. Did she ever make a joke? I can't remember. Either way, she won. So glad to see that. But we also get to see kind of like most things, we get to see kind of a more personal side of the coaches, and just like we got to see maybe the more nasty side of Ronda last season, we're kind of getting to see a more nasty side of Joanna. in this season, and she's nowhere near as bad as Ronda. Ronda, as we know, is kind of a diva, but
she's definitely putting it on for the cameras, perhaps.
Maybe, but either way, she's
becoming more comfortable.
She's feeling like Claudia's kind of been a little bit disrespectful, whereas coming from where Claudia's coming from, it looks more like she's just like, when you're making comments like "go back to the jungle" or "go back to Brazil" or stuff like that, I'm just hearing this and I'm thinking, what?
Don't do that. It's not.
I was just like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me?
Ill thought out,
Yeah.
Whatever, and who knows if it's a cultural thing where there's a lack of understanding as to exactly what is acceptable to say and not, but that's a little bit on the extreme side.
Well, and of course the thing is with us, we're looking at this from an American cultural standpoint, whereas we're talking about a Pole and a Brazilian. So there's like 3 or 4 different cultural clashes right there. Yeah. So,
well, whatever. I'm sure it makes for very interesting television.
It's made for some very interesting television so far. And then, of course, I mentioned the fact that stablemates don't like to fight each other. Well, there's I think it's Rain MMA in Vegas. There were 3 people from Rain MMA tried out for the Ultimate Fighter. 2 of them had to fight each other in the first round of the in-house fights. So they went out there and they fought, and were
they competitive?
Yeah, they were competitive. But the funny thing is, afterwards, they were still, doing more. They were still on a casual. They're still on a casual relationship to the point where they did a donut eating contest in the house. Goodness.
You're having a little bit of fun.
And the loser of the fight, he won, but the loser of the donut contest had to get made up by the girls. So they did his makeup and wear a sports bra and put some apples in there.
Oh my gosh. That is absolutely absurd.
Oh yeah, it was one of those funny things. But it's made for an interesting season so far because you've got the casual parts of the season, then you've got maybe some tension more between the coaches than anything else. I haven't seen the latest episode. My understanding is there's going to be some prank wars that start. So
I feel as though the last couple seasons of The Ultimate Fighter have been a little bit on the staler side, with maybe the exception of the women's seasons, and it's good to see sort of. Good to hear that it's sort of on a relative upswing in terms of entertainment value.
Well, and I'm also glad there isn't like any of these in-house fights, because there were some seasons there where you would have people like brawling with each other and they're doing in-house in squabbling and stuff like that. And the last season with Uriah Faber and Conor McGregor, that one actually had an in-house, not just an in-house, an in-team squabble. So it's there's still, we are talking about alpha, basically alpha personalities.
Yeah, super macho, or machismo.
Yeah, machismo or machismo, depending on the gender. But we are talking about alpha personalities, and that's just the nature of the sport. So we're going to see personalities clash, and
it's for our entertainment.
Yeah, it's for our entertainment. So, we'll continue to see how the thing all rolls out. And honestly, this season's kind of been making me cheer on Claudia a little bit more.
Okay.
But I certainly hope that that Ashley wins her fight.
Yeah, continues on.
Miss Yoder.
Miss Yoder. So, Matt, does that just about bring us to wrapping up the podcast?
Yeah, that's about all I could think of for Yeah, that's about all I can think of for right now. So we'll watch UFC 199 this weekend, and then we'll see how things go from there. There's some. Let's see. Later this month, we got some. Oh yeah, we were talking. When this morning we were talking about the Freestyle World Cup. That's actually the 11th.
Okay. So that's on the 11th of June, and maybe you and I might have a chance to go check some out there.
11th, yeah, the 11th and 12th of June.
And that's in Los Angeles.
Yes, that's I think it's in Los Angeles. So we'll
keep an eye on that.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that, and we'll see how that goes. Yeah, I think the World Cup is usually the same year as the Olympics. So with the Olympics going on, I should try to see how the World Team Trials are done. Or when the World Team Trials are scheduled and whatnot. So,
kind of keep our eye on that. Absolutely.
Yeah. So later on this month, there's going to be another UFC fight night. There's some Bellator fights scheduled, World Series of Fighting, but
sort of.
And then of course, remember that first week in July is International Fight Week, where we're going to have multiple combat sports events. We're going to have probably the MMA Amateur World Championships again. There's going to be 3 UFC events in a row. Probably going to see some. There's going to be the UFC Fan Expo. There one of these days we need to go there.
Okay.
You and me, we need to go there one of these days because it's just in Vegas. That's what 5 hours away drive. It's like a 5-hour drive. So or 2-hour drive.
I think closer to 5.
Yeah, it's a 5 hour.
Somewhere between 2 and 5.
Yeah, and of course our one of our co-founders and Gabriel Keith still lives there, so we could crash at his place.
Yes.
So
if you have
one of these years we need to go. I'm not sure that I could go this year, but yeah, one of these years we need to go.
We'll definitely plan it out. We'll plan it out maybe for next year.
Maybe next year. This is one of those like things where we need to plan that out. So that's our podcast. We will try to come back next week, and we will be reviewing UFC 199, whatever other events go on in MMA world, and then of course, as I said, for the Freestyle World Cup, we'll be in Los Angeles, and I will basically be be able to talk to you about what all is actually going on, because I don't know how much of wrestling amateur wrestling, but
maybe not so much, but it's still fun to watch.
So it'll be interesting, and that's it. Unless we want to maybe bring up some pro wrestling talk.
You would be more up on what's been happening lately. Who's the champion?
The champion is still Roman Reigns.
So hold on, did they put him up? Did he already face AJ Styles?
He faced AJ Styles twice, and
both times.
Yeah.
Is he supposed to be a face though?
I don't know. I think though that he's kind of starting to realize that people really don't like him, so maybe they're starting to realize maybe it'd be better just to have him turn heel. And they've kind of been hinting at that because Seth Rollins came back.
There you go.
So they're
now
going
things
to
get spicy.
So at was it Payback? Was it? I think Payback's the next pay-per-view. It's gonna be him versus Money in the Bank. The next one it's Money in the Bank. It's gonna be him and Seth Rollins facing each other. Of interesting note is that Dean Ambrose has qualified for the Money in the Bank match. So my thought is, what if Dean Ambrose wins it and then he cashes in later that night? The only person to cash in on the same night is Kane. So my thought is, what if he cashes in that same night and it becomes he does it like Seth Rollins and becomes a all-shield triple threat?
Well,
that's an interesting thought. But
I sooner see the scenario playing out as Roman Reigns losing. Well, no, I don't know. It's a tough thing to sort of execute perfectly. The best way to do it there is have not Roman Reigns lose, but Seth Rollins lose. Have the audience sort of turn against Roman Reigns very obviously, and then have Dean Ambrose immediately cash in after the match and beat a gassed out Roman Reigns to the audience's delight, and then sort of set up this weird three-way rivalry between two sort of prospective faces. And if they could sort of get Roman Reigns to turn, it'd be Rollins and Ambrose as the faces with Roman Reigns as the heel. And it would definitely add some legitimacy to Roman Reigns' sort of viability as a top card contender, because they're trying to push him like the new John Cena, and that is a tough pill to swallow.
If he's related to The Rock, just let's if they want to really go with that, then go with him as The Rock. When they switch Dwayne Johnson from Rocky Maivia to The Rock, they switched him from what was supposed to be a baby face to a heel.
Yes.
Because the crowd didn't like him, so they said, okay, let's just roll with this.
But Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, has some serious charisma. Roman Reigns sometimes is a little bit
stale. He's stale, whereas, The Rock always had that charisma.
Yeah.
Can you smash?
Oh, gosh, the very best. The very best. That'll one of the very best.
Yeah. So, did you also hear about other recent events? Okay, so I think it was last week, they announced that they're going to revive the brand split.
I heard that, yeah.
Which I think makes more sense because they've got a huge inflated roster, and sometimes these guys just, sometimes they have them wrestle, twice a week, and then of course that
they get lost in the shuffle.
Yeah, they get lost in the shuffle
without any sort of additional structure to why they are wrestling.
Yeah, I think that if done correctly, I think around this time, and it seems like things have steadily been improving since Shane McMahon came back into the fold, which I think maybe it's partially him behind the scenes. Honestly, I think maybe I don't know.
He might be positively influencing some of the booking.
I think maybe he's. I think maybe they realized we need some help, so maybe they brought him back in, and now he's like being part of the creative side of it, and then all of a sudden, because. Because I think that maybe he's helping influence things out a little bit. As for the one thing I could think of that hopefully they can do right is maybe, which championships are going to be exclusive to where. What I'm thinking is they assign, the secondary championships, the Intercontinental and the U.S. exclusively to one brand or the other. And then as they originally did, they have the other three titles, kind of these more fluid brand titles that can be defended in both brands. Where like originally the way they did was that the women's championship and the
tag team.
Originally, I think they had all three. Yeah, the World Women's and Tag Team Championships were all defended on both programs. But then they started getting exclusively assigned to one or the other. And at one point, I think the women of SmackDown didn't even have a championship until the Divas Championship was created. Then the Tag Championship, it was only assigned to one, and then they came up with the another tag championship, because originally it was called the World Tag Team Championship, and then they created the WWE Tag Team Championship, and then they revived the World Championship with the big gold belt.
Yep.
So that's when they had specific championships for each one until they unified it, and then had them towards the end of the brand split being more fluid, until finally they just ended the brand split and just unified everything and whatnot. So
it's going to be interesting to see if they sort of go down the exact same route or exactly what remedies they have for it.
I think if they do it the right way and they have them defended on one program or the other, then things would be a little bit more. But then the question then becomes: is do they keep doing super shows, or do they start doing brand exclusive pay-per-views? Which I think there were positives and negatives to that, but. One thing I can also think of is maybe if you utilize the WWE Network more, maybe not have necessarily a a pay-per-view, maybe just have an exclusive network show or something like that.
Yeah.
We'll see how that goes. We'll just see how it goes. It's hard to tell, but yeah, so we'll see how that all goes.
That should be fun and on the horizon. Well, we'll catch you all next week with another episode of the MMA Freakcast after UFC 199. I'm Edson Valenzuela.
And I'm Matthew Salzer.
I'm on Twitter at Edson_V.
And I'm on Twitter at Matthew Salzer.
The website is on Twitter at MMA Freakout.
Yes, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Heffy Jr. for our help. At Heffy Jr., Tom Heffernan, one of the contributors on MMA Freak, one of the most loyal.
Yes, so thank you very much. And also of note is that for those of you who would like to be a part of our rankings panel, we now do the rankings through the MMA forum website. I put on a thread whenever it's significant.
What's the URL to that?
It's just www.mmaforum.com. I usually put it in the UFC section. That's where we do all of our rankings now. So if you want to be a part of the rankings, please go on, create a profile, and then you can log on and be a part of the rankings. So thank you very much. And yeah, that's it. So
see you next week.
Yep. See you next week.